Yo, G-Man from the G-Show. Let's talk about life and what we know. You wanna have a seat with the top dog? Be ready to get down with the real talk. All jokes aside, welcome to the G-Man Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the G-Man Show. And I'm your host, Alex G-Man. Today, we have an extremely special guest. A very, very interesting person who has recreated our Facebook environment with one of the most interesting groups out there called Toronto Mommies. And her name is Alisa Fulshtinsky. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How is your day on a Sunday morning? I am so hard to do a podcast on a Sunday after a Saturday night. You know, I'm in the club industry and it's like, but cheers to the good show.
Thank you.
Did you party last night?
No, man. I'm in that age where my best idea of a party is...
On Facebook.
No. Oh, no, that sounds sad. No, it's just, you know, it's lying in your bed after having a nice dinner and be so grateful you don't have to go anywhere. Because I worked yesterday until 8 p.m.
What do you do aside from running the
I'm
group?
a real estate agent.
Oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah.
now it's crazy. How's the market now?
Well, it cooled down a little bit.
Is it?
Since I work a lot with buyers, for me that's even a little bit better.
But right now, they raised the mortgage rate.
They did a little bit, yeah.
And are you feeling it? Are you feeling
Well,
like
we feel it in people's perception of things because a lot in Toronto depends. I've been doing it for many years. And in Toronto, a lot depends on how confident people are about the market. So if people feel like, oh my God, it's going to grow, they run, they start investing, they start buying, selling because they're looking for that growth. And then when the government releases something that's supposed to stop it, people stop. And they wait to see where it's gonna go.
So now basically everybody stopped.
Well, not everyone, but like it's been almost the market almost half the size it should have been for springtime.
Wow. We'll get to the real estate part later.
Sure,
Please. I want to know how the idea of the group of Toronto Mommy came up. I think it was 2012, right?
It was 2013.
13.
So there's a story behind it. There's a lot of things that came to it to be, but the story behind it, there's the practical story and the spiritual story. So practically speaking, we were in a small Montreal group. I just had my son. And I'm the type of a woman that didn't have a lot of girlfriends. So even like I didn't have a baby shower because I didn't have anyone to invite. I had mostly guy friends that I was working with and a couple of girlfriends who were older. And one of my friends said, hey, I'm going to invite you to a really small group in Montreal of Russian moms. And just, you know, when we're bored and where we sit at night and, you know, can't sleep with the baby, we just communicate. So they invited me over. And I spent time there, and I really liked the environment all of a sudden. I don't know if it was the hormones or what, but it was a new environment for me, right? Because I would usually chill with guys, and I really liked the environment. And I got inspired by it a little bit. But they didn't like that we were from Toronto, and they didn't want us asking Toronto questions. That's the practical reason why Toronto Mom was created, but it wasn't very popular from the first day it was created. For a couple of months, it was just a standstill group, right? And people were adding themselves, but we weren't really developing it. The spiritual story, which is, you know, has more romance into it, is a little bit more interesting because I wanted to work with women for many, many years. And on the charity side, I worked with abused women a little bit. I volunteered with them. I was thinking a lot about women's issues. And my father had a stroke. Now, my father is a controversial figure. My whole family is full of controversial figures.
Why?
Why is a very philosophical question, but we can talk about each one of them separately.
Sure.
My father was controversial because he wasn't always a nice guy to everyone around him, right? He was going through his own personal struggles, and a lot of times he was alone and didn't have a lot of friends around him or didn't want to have a lot of friends around him. But in 2013, while he was still very young, he had a very serious stroke. So here I am in the hospital, and it's the first day, second day, we're not sure if he's going to live, and then it's the third day, we know he's going to live, but he's not going to be well. And he has so many people that came to his bedside in the ICU and later in the other, places that he was, but it was still ICU day 3. And here's my dad, and here are all these people that weren't always around him when he was, or that he wasn't always very nice to. And I was thinking to myself, why are they here? And one of the reasons why they were there is because he created this non-for-profit that he was part of, and they were there for him, supporting him. So they were playing music at his bed. They were coming from all kinds of cities to support him. And I thought, wow, in my immigration here in Canada, my generation, 10 years ago, we didn't have that. There was nothing that's going to bring us together. But I remember being a little girl, and my dad and my mom, we always had people hang out in our house. They had me very young, so they'll go to sleep and there'll be like 20 people drinking and playing music and having fun. And I thought, we need that. We're missing that. And then, I don't know if it was the pot lights or me being so tired I was hallucinating, but there was like a voice in my ears, and like I almost felt like a light come in telling me, well, then you do it. And I was like, okay.
I wonder was there another light that came together with that one?
Oh, you never know, right? No, I was completely sober.
All right.
But I had that feeling, and I started developing Toronto Mommies, and I had at that point in my life, there was so much going on. Can we swear on this show?
Absolutely.
There was
We're
so
drinking.
much shit going on in my life that even if I remember now, it was so scary for me. But it was a difficult year for me, very difficult, one of the most difficult. And Toronto Mommies was like a refuge. I started creating it, and that's where you saw me the first time.
I remember I
Yes.
used to own Kafka's, and you guys did a party, and I came like, it was such a cool idea. This was like, I think it was like 30 of you, right?
Yeah, 28.
And you were
me.
and you were catering to everybody. You were making sure everything is okay. I mean, it felt really cool.
I really remember that evening well.
Do you remember that
I
one?
do.
I always sat in the corner. I drank a little bit.
I didn't.
Do you remember me?
I remember you sitting there, but I didn't focus.
I was
on
checking
you.
out 30 girls. I was like, listen, I came in, it was supposed to be for 5 minutes, and then I walk in, I see like 30 broads. I'm like, holy crap, mommies? I'm like, who's single, who's not? I remember you told me that one. But
You know what you don't know is that evening was very tough for me on a personal level because my husband was in Russia with his dying mother. That was one of my best friends, and we just found out that she was dying. You probably won't be able to save her. So I'm stepping out to get these calls, walking back in, and I have to smile. And I think the concept of mother and how important that is for me, that was part of the story as well. It happens to you. You don't make it happen. In that moment, I'm thinking about my mother, on me being a young mother going through all of this, and on his mother, who was such a superstar woman, dying and being in Russia, and I wanted to bring her in Canada. So the whole thing kind of came to be, and I fell in love with these women. I really did.
tell me about the growth. The growth of because you went from obviously from like 30 girls to whatever I'm seeing online is insane.
I remember when the group first started, it was really being active. I think it was May. And my thought was, oh my God, it's going to be so amazing if by my birthday in August, we're going to have 500 people. I was like, oh, it's going to be such a dream come true. And then we had like almost 2,000 by August. So the growth was phenomenal because you have to remember that 9 years ago, there was nothing like this. After that, a couple of groups repeated what we did and took a lot of our members and did certain things with it. But it didn't exist.
Oh, I don't think there will ever exist a group like yours.
Well, now you're flattering me.
I don't know for some.
Well, depends on perception, right? But
We'll get to that.
It was very fast growth. There were so many people who wanted to be a part of this, so many mommies, because we also had like a birth boom in the year prior to that, and the social media was becoming more prominent, and all of a sudden we came in, and this was like a new thing, so the growth was pretty amazing. And then something bad happened that made the group grow as well, but unfortunately that was not so amazing.
What happened?
In July of that year, a girl died in a home daycare that was unlicensed in Vaughan.
I remember that story.
Yeah, and I was the spokesperson for the family. And that made a lot of people join. That was the first time we were in the news.
I read some articles that you guys changed a lot of regulations, or some.
Not a lot, some. I worked with. There was so much involved around that situation, but a lot of mommies who knew what was going on in that daycare didn't want to come out and snitch. But at the same time, there were a lot of people who knew that it's becoming increasingly an environment that wasn't safe and weren't saying anything. And so certain people were coming to me, telling me their stories and allowing me to pass it forward, whether it was authorities or news places. So I started being involved in that way. And then the Ministry of Education of Ontario had contacted me, and I contacted them several times, and we talked about what's next. And one of the things that mattered at that point to me, I was so surprised that we live in Canada and you think that, you know, it's such a safe environment for everyone. Maybe now after COVID, not everyone thinks that.
COVID, war.
Right? But 9 years ago, a lot of the sentiment was like, well, this can't happen. And I found out that home daycares in Ontario are not licensed, are not registered, could be completely, unmonitored. And this daycare had 5 complaints, and they had tickets issued against them. And yet, on the amount of children that was there, that was excessive, and yet nobody did anything about it.
I remember that situation very clearly. I remember having discussions with my friends about it, and we actually had a meeting with a buddy of mine and a couple of lawyers. I mean, of course, whatever the daycare did was pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
But the system failed.
Absolutely.
The system failed. That was the main problem. The problem is that women and families need to work but there's not enough daycares, government daycares for them. So they have no choice to use the resort that they have and going to these places who are growing so fast. We're talking about like
Vaughan was growing so fast too, right? All of a sudden you had all these young families. It became a personal mission of mine. So I don't do things unless I get really pissed. Anger is a wonderful motivator for me. And I became so angry at how the system treated all of this. And we can talk a lot about how the system treated women, how the system treated young families, how the system treated a lot of groups that were involved with that, even immigrants. But most and foremost, there was a complacency. The government was there 4 times, saw what's going on, and didn't do shit about it.
At that time, they couldn't do anything about it.
Because the law was what it was.
It works when it gets to the media.
Of course.
As soon as it hits the media, that's when everybody starts reacting. Before that, it's all about, if it doesn't hit the media, nobody knows about it, deal with it yourself.
The question is also what the media chooses to talk about. This was no news until a girl died. So the anger that I was feeling at the whole system and at the fact that these daycares, because I knew the owner of that daycare, and I've seen signs of things being not so well many years before, but I allowed to be convinced into the fact that this is okay. This is just the way we do things. But there was so many details about that. It was, fucked up, that when it happened, my desire to protect the family, because there was so much shit being thrown at them from some people in the community as well. My desire to make sure that the voice is being heard, but also my just instinctive motherly desire to make sure that daycares are safe. Because as I started to learn about what's actually going on there, I was like, are you kidding me? And we're okay with this? Like, there has to be some measure of safety. So we started working with it right now and trying to get the media involved 9 years ago. A lot of people joined Toronto Mommies because of that. And there was a lot of attention brought to that. And that's when I had my first share of enemies.
Well, why?
Well, because there were people who owned home daycares that were illegal. Mm-hmm. And I said that I will continue, airing them out. I was never actually airing the names in the group, but I was encouraging people to file complaints if the amount of people...
You weren't airing?
I weren't airing names of daycares in the group. I wasn't, no. but they knew that it's been sent to.
You weren't naming the daycares? I'm sure you guys were. Oh,
No.
come on. In the group?
Maybe somebody was. I personally was not.
But it's in your group.
Well, you do understand.
You guys name all the time. Come on.
We do, but in this situation, we didn't, right? At least that I'm aware of.
All right.
But the biggest reason why they hated me was economical. Because here's a home daycare, doesn't have a license, a mom and a daughter, 15 kids, all cash income, 10 years ago when mortgages were smaller, and all of a sudden, bam, they can have only 5 children. Because all of a sudden the authorities are looking into this.
But what can they do? I mean, parents need to work. What are they going to do if there's no other option? Like I said, the system failed. They
Yes.
have no other options. They have no other option to use these non-licensed daycares. They have no choice.
They did have a choice, but I agree what you're saying. 80% of all daycare spots back then were unlicensed in the province of Ontario. And when I heard that statistics, I was like, no, that's bullshit. It can't be true. But then I spoke to Ministry of Education, which are all older people, and they're not thinking about daycares day in and day out. And turned out that it is true. So a lot of people didn't have the option. But a lot of people also didn't know that they're sending kids to an unlicensed daycare.
What?
People didn't know.
Oh, come on.
You think they're
When you have
sending-
$2,000 and you have $1,000, you know it's not licensed.
It wasn't back like this back then. You could have get a daycare for $1,200. This was $900, $950.
You know,
It wasn't a
listen,
big difference.
any parent that gave their children to a daycare, they all know who's licensed, who's not. Let's
daycare-
be realistic. The parents who give away the children, they know where they're giving the children to. So
Okay.
so they know license, but we also need to understand that the majority of daycares are good. Even the one unlicensed,
absolutely.
they're good. You know,
Yes.
and you're always gonna have
Bad
cases.
apples.
You're always gonna have bad apples. You're always gonna have greedy people. You're not gonna stop it, even with the licensed daycares. You're not gonna stop it. You know, it's the same thing until they get caught.
So when I was studying real estate, I was asking my real estate law professor about this one thing in a real estate clause. And I asked him, how are we going to enforce it? And he said, well, there's no way to enforce it, not really. And I said, so why is it there? And he said, to put the fear of God in their hearts. So when you have a licensed daycare and you invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into this business, let's say you are a greedy person, you don't care about kids, but there could be someone coming in to check up on you any second, you at least are afraid of something. And that's going to control behavior a little bit.
In our community, everybody knows how to hide things pretty well. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's always going to be bad apples, and there's going to be good.
So we worked on making them safer. It was an election year, and one of the candidates for wanted to be a prime minister, Chris Alexander. He approached me and asked me, "What do you want to get for you to push me into the Russian community?" And I said, "I want daycare reform." So he said, "Okay, I never thought about it." I said, "Well, start thinking about it." So we sat down, and we put this plan in place, which didn't end up happening the way that we put it in place, but it raised so many questions. And later on, when Prime Minister Trudeau was elected, a lot of candidates later adopted certain portion of it, because me sitting down with them kind of put it on the map. It was the right time, and it really advanced the daycare situation in our communities by much. Now we have licensed daycares, licensed home daycares. We have licensed home daycare agencies that are Russian speaking, because we didn't have any of them back then. People who license can receive help from the government, and now they can have 6 kids, which the extra kid allows them to hire an assistant. So there's a lot of good things that happened, unfortunately, from a very big tragedy.
Yeah, I actually remember it. But there was a lot of cases. There was the lady that left the kid in the car.
That was the case.
That's exactly the case, because there was at that year, I think there was like multiple ones. One, there was a kid was sick, and I think nobody paid attention to the high fever. There's another case, right?
No, this is the same case. These were the rumors that were going around that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So the owner of that daycare that left the child in the car, she didn't expect Toronto Mommies to be Toronto Mommies when all of that happened, right? And she was running a counter informational war to kind of say, no, I didn't leave her in the car. She was just sick and she fell asleep in the. It's all in the news. Fell asleep in her bed, and so that's why you might have heard those stories. But it was the same story.
Strategy. This is the way I look at your group. I love the idea. I think I even told you that when I saw you guys doing it the first meeting at the restaurant. I love the idea. But to me, Toronto Mommies is on one hand a group that wants to help everybody and be there for everybody. And at the same time, the other side of that group is that they are bullying people who are not on the same page with them on their ideas, or if let's say they didn't like the business that they went to, or they had bad service. So a lot of people are expressing their opinions and their posts on Toronto Mommies that are not that helpful.
Well, let's define helpful. And I'll tell you why. So, first of all, Facebook is an environment that is filled with bullying. I'm not going to even talk about other platforms. Twitter is just, I think, built for bullying. So, yes, it sometimes happens. We cannot control it 100%. But if we're talking to businesses in our community, and I kind of know where you're going with this, and I want to talk about it because it's important.
Sure.
Day in and day out, all businesses receive free recommendations and advertising from Toronto Mommies. There are businesses built, like we can go through it.
But it's not asked for. You guys didn't ask them to do the advertising for them. It's just...
Doesn't matter. You receive good reviews every day about businesses. People ask, where do I want to celebrate my wedding or go somewhere? And you're going to get your business advertised day in and day out.
If you're on the good side with the Toronto Mommies.
No, it happens all the time. We can't control other people. Every business has patrons, and they will express their opinion, and we're not going to tell them not to express it. There are businesses I dislike. They get advertised every day. Right? And then once in a while, there's a situation. Once in a while is once in a while. Because these are the stories you hear about. Because you don't hear about the other things. Because they're mundane.
I do. I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but yeah, I do.
But you're going to hear about it like once in 3, 4, 5 months. There's going to come out a post about a business.
A big one.
A big one.
That everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
But look, I am all about fairness.
Okay.
I am about fairness that, you can express yourself, but when you go public, you have to have the other side to be able to express.
And the other side always is able to
in a lot of cases, if you're a guy in a business, you can't express yourself on Toronto Mommies.
Of course you can.
No, you can. How are you going to do it? You're going to express it on
You call me, you send me your answer, I send you the screenshots, I put it in there for you. What's the problem?
You have to be able to be an actual group to express yourself.
No, you can do it through me.
Why do they have to do it through you? If you're a moderator, that shouldn't be there in the beginning.
Well, listen, we don't allow men into women's public washrooms as well, right? If
I don't know. These days, I don't know. These days, if you refuse, you're probably going to get canceled. What do you think about the cancel culture?
I think it's gone too far. I think the cancel culture started as a good way of saying we've had enough, and it went to being this weapon that's held over people's heads if they say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing that a certain group of people doesn't like. And at the same time, I think it becomes a stereotype. Like Amber Heard, right? We saw the trial. I saw the trial, spent so many hours watching it. So she lost because of her. The things she said, the way she acted, the lies that she perpetrated again and again and again. And there's still people saying that she lost only because she's a woman standing up against a strong man. And we know it's not true. But people are just thinking stereotypically. They don't want to let go of their opinion. They still want to perpetrate the idea that every woman that speaks up is not believed, and that was not the case. So I think the cancel culture went too far. The cancel culture is there hoping that we'll start listening to each other and starting weeding out the elements that are not helping you or I. And all of a sudden, it's there like a hysteric public phenomenon when we start canceling people out. And I don't think we need to cancel various opinions if they're spoken respectfully.
I mean, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. So I heard on a couple of occasions. Look, I don't want to go into like bashing Toronto Mommies because I think it's a fantastic group, to be honest with you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I know some people won't agree with me, but I think it's a fantastic group because there's a lot of good stuff about it. I mean, I know personally people who went in the group and got exactly what they needed: information about kids, about like said, daycares, about where to buy, especially for new moms, who never encountered it. They have other moms that can go there. But I also think that using the group as a bully and is also creates the other environment. Well, I read the group about on Facebook, and it says it's only related to mommies and people who just had their kids. But then when we talk about businesses that are completely irrelevant to children, let's say restaurants, body shops, and as a guy, when I see women jump on a business, I see a lot of personal issues. I see drama that could be solved before going to public, because this is a public group, right? I mean, how many people you have on the group right now?
Well, in our groups in total, we have around 30,000 verified
30,000.
members.
So imagine the information that gets passed if something negative happens. It's what I'm going to go back to what I was saying is that we need to be able to express ourselves, to answer some of the questions that are being said, especially if they go overboard. And sometimes you guys do go overboard. Would you be considered to making a 1 day a week for guys to come in and
then
talk
do
shit?
What? We still have guys coming in on their fake profile and
Of
their
course, they
girlfriend's
want to say what their wife.
We have these elements in it anyways, no matter how much we try to not have them there. Listen, I'll speak about myself.
Yeah.
During the 3rd, 4th, and 5th year that I was doing Toronto Mommies, I was subjected to online and live bullying almost every day by a group of women that I don't know personally. They were going out of their way to make sure that the worst things about me that weren't even true will be everybody's knowledge. They were saying all kinds of things about me, and then that information was traveling from word to mouth, and everybody adds a little bit more, excitement to them. I'm still standing with a very successful real estate business. So yes, some people heard that and probably said, I'm not gonna work with Alisa. But other people heard that and didn't know who Alisa was, and all of a sudden they do. So if you ask me who I thank for my success after like my family and God and, Irodina, I thank these people. They put me on the map. They made me famous. When one of my friends' businesses was being trashed in another group, Mommy's group, it was trashed on purpose. We weren't even allowed to come in and comment. And when someone was saying something good, they were blocked from the group. 3-4 people came in same day saying, I just came to check it out. Is it true what they're saying about you? And they become clients of that business. So there is that bad element to it, but I haven't seen anyone get canceled that should, except for that daycare teacher.
There's so many. I know in the cosmetology sector, you guys killed it.
What?
I heard so many stories that you guys killed that industry.
No, we didn't.
Well, yes, you did. I'm not going to go into details, but yes, you did.
I'm not going to go into details as well, because these businesses are alive and well and kicking and screaming.
I don't know. I heard some not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, listen.
Everyone who I spoke against, because they don't have a license to practice what they practice, and because they use fake materials, and because there are complaints against them in the Doctors Association, Nurse Association, and public health sector, these businesses still alive. They just know the people go there now, mostly, not all, know what they're choosing to go into. and that's it. You want to go there, you want to take that risk, that's up to you, but the important part is that you know that you're taking that risk.
Yeah, of course. This is what I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
Some of the topics that you guys have, somebody sent me a screenshot. And the last screenshot was anal bleaching.
Oh man, that was such a funny topic. I love it.
Dude, did you hear about this? Anal bleaching.
So I gotta tell you, anal bleaching, the first post was on Toronto Mommies 8 years ago when the group was still relatively small. And it was one of the funniest things that ever happened to me. Like, I was laughing, I had tears coming out. First of all, the concept was so new to me that somebody would want to anally bleach themselves. Now I kind of take it like it's a normal thing, but back then it was just talking about it was funny. But even how much we laughed and how funny it was to discuss that, it was amazing. Right now, the group kind of morphed when we try not to offend each other that much, and because
You do?
Yeah, well, I'm very strict with that. And
You got stricter?
I got much stricter, man. Everybody said I took the fun out of it.
Of the drama?
Yeah. And now
You
now-
like that?
in a way.
I can so see you liking when things blow up out of proportion.
Define out of proportion.
I mean, if there's like complete war.
No, I don't like complete wars.
Oh come on!
I don't.
Oh come on! You probably get your wine, popcorn, sit there and throw fire.
No.
Yeah.
I don't serve dinner. I get upset with everybody in my house, and I'm like. So part of it was making it normal for me. That's why so many things were not allowed now. Back then it was really funny, right? And then anal bleaching, when my friend that owns a beauty salon said, "Hey, we gotta expand. What are we gonna do?" I told her, "Let's do anal bleaching," and she looked at me. She said, "Are you insane?" I said, "You don't know. It's a really big thing. You just don't know about it." So she put it on Google, and she got a lot of clients that way. So anal bleaching is a thing, mostly for people with darker skin colors. And then a couple of weeks ago, somebody tried to post that question again, and the OG girls, the ones that remember the first post, they were complaining that it wasn't as funny as the first one. And but now it's so normalized.
But it was anonymous, right? Did you write
It was
it?
anonymous.
Do
I
you
did
write
not
some of the
know.
stuff?
Very, and I swear to God, I don't bullshit because that's not what I do. I'm interesting enough without that. It was really not me writing it. Not the first and not the second one.
So you're telling me you never ghostwrite posts?
I do ghostwrite
do
a couple of times a year. But a lot of times these are personal topics of mine that I want to discuss, but I can't because my girlfriend's going to know it's me and they're going to get pissed off. So I will take up an idea, I'll change the people and the names and put it there because I want to know something. I don't do it to create a sensation.
What's the biggest topic of this year, aside from anal bleaching?
Wow. Biggest topic of this year, unfortunately, is the war in Ukraine and Russia.
Extremely sad.
Yeah, it's beyond words. And it was not, and it came after 2 years of COVID and vaccine conversations that almost tore the community apart. Right? It was such a hot topic. People was so close to everybody's heart because it's about life and death and health and the government having power over us. And we're from the back Soviet Union. We don't like when the government has power over us. And other people was feeling there was, and it was really bad because people were taking it personally when we didn't allow that conversation to be discussed in Toronto Mommies.
Why not?
Because people were getting, first of all, there was a lot of conspiracy theory. And we don't allow it in Toronto Mommies. Group gets stricken down for that on Facebook.
So you would allow bashing of a business, but you wouldn't allow somebody talking about conspiracy theory about vaccines?
Will not share the content and the amount of content that they shared.
Why? Because it would get banned?
It was getting banned by Facebook, and people were
right.
fighting, and some of those things were wacky.
Like what?
Man, about like UFOs coming, getting us, vaccinating us, probing us.
That's
You know, and there are a lot of people who are impressionable. You have to remember we have people of different age groups, and some of the older people don't know how to use Facebook that well, so when they read something they believe it's true. And then the whole concentration camp thing was really big, that in Northern Ontario they're building concentration camps so they can take our properties away from us, and the people who are not going to be vaccinated are going to sit in concentration camps, and the properties are going to be seized by the government. That was really big.
I mean, if you look at it, it kind of happened. Not 100%. Excuse me. The properties were taken away. Convoy, what happened? Their bank account got frozen. Their trucks were taken away. Our rights are gone.
Just a second.
No, but we're talking about certain
Just
facts,
a second.
right?
So let's just separate these two topics. So this was only about whether you're going to get vaccinated or not. Freedom Convoy, which by the way I supported, I don't have anything against it, started as an amazing thing, and I think that one of the reasons why we have more freedoms now in Canada is because of what the Freedom Convoy did, right? And when they came out, they did. You can't, when you have a movement like a Freedom Convoy or Toronto Mommies or anything else, you can't weed out all the crazies. You're going to have this small percentage of people who are insane, and they're going to come in and do things that are going to discredit the movement. And I think in a lot of ways that happened with the Freedom Convoy, right? But the bank accounts weren't frozen for that long.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the minute you freeze, your rights are gone. Because Freedom Convoy pretty much was a good organization. It was. They had a few issues, but it was more of a logistic problems. They weren't told how to properly do the blockades, but things could have been a little bit differently. But it was a free movement. It was amazing, very inspiring, and worldwide inspiring. I mean, a couple of truck drivers went worldwide famous, you know, talking about people talking about the world reform.
It was a civil rights movement.
It was civil rights movement. So a lot of conspiracy theories, guys, the crazy one were a little right. You know, no concentration camps, but you know, I had COVID, and the way they handled me, I felt like I'm in a concentration camp. In the parking lot, you know, locked up, and it was a winter time, locked up outside in a little tent.
So hospitals were scared.
What happened to COVID now? I went to see my family doctor.
It's there, but it's weakened after 2 years of this. So when I first come out, my mom's an ICU nurse, and when I first come out, nobody knew how strong it was, but everybody said, all the immunologists that were independent said that after about 2 years it's going to become as weak as the flu virus. But nobody knew what's going to happen within those 2 weeks, within those 2 years, sorry. So anyways, you asked me a question. So COVID was so divisive, and so divisive where people were fighting each other, and, you know, a family member won't talk to me because of my stand on COVID and Toronto Mommies. So it was hard, right, these 2 years. And then we thought that we're out of this, and then the war with Russia and Ukraine came in. We don't allow to discuss the war in the group. We were always a unifying group. We were not a separating group. But we do have issues of language that are being discussed in the group right now with thousands of people participating.
Like what kind?
Well, we have people come in from Ukraine and they post posts on Toronto Mommies.
Right.
And they post them in Ukrainian. And Russian-speaking girls don't like it sometimes. Very rarely, but...
What's the problem? You push a button, translate, and that's it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's their language. They can speak whatever they want to.
Listen, people are not always aware of how biased they are. They're going to think that one thing pisses them off, when in reality something else pisses them off, right? There's a sentiment against certain Ukrainian refugees right now that,
like
especially in Europe, I don't read that content. My brain is not a trash can. I choose what I see. But apparently some Ukrainian refugees being ungrateful for the help they're getting, or expecting to get things that others were not getting because they are Ukrainian refugees. But I'm saying you can't generalize. Not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. Not all Russians are the same. Not all Ukrainians are the same.
Judging by a group, all men are the same.
So not true.
Right? Judging by the group, all men are the same.
So not true. Absolutely not true.
Are you guys helping the Ukrainian community?
We are, yeah.
Refugees?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
You're always going to have bad apples.
Of course.
You know, you're always going to... I heard about these stories too, but listen, the majority of Ukrainian people are good people, you know, and I'm against war.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And as a Russian, it's even harder.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree with whatever is happening there, and it's very, very sad to see us being divided, because for me there was never a difference between Ukrainian, Russian, Moldovan. I mean, it's always like the same, and it's still going to be the same thing. No one can divide me, but it's very, very unfortunate, and I'm glad that we are able in Canada to help as much as we can. Yes, of course, there's a lot of negativity towards the Russians. You know, I hear it all the time, but I understand. Right now, everything is very emotional, you know, so hopefully eventually it'll cool off when the war will be done. But how are you guys helping?
So we started first and foremost with creating these posts where you can regulate the amount of help being offered, but after a couple of weeks they become obsolete because you already have like 300, 400 comments. Some of them are already expired. So there are good communities, a good organization in this community do wonderful work, and we'll make sure that we support them. Each admin, you know, sends out money. We make sure that we highlight these situations, collect clothes, collect furniture. A lot of them are, what I do a lot is I get businesses involved in helping. In terms of what can you do, I'm like community service or center on wheels, right? You're trying to connect people, trying to support people who connect people, try to support events that are going directly, fundraising, all of that. Every form of help, I think, went through Toronto Mommies one way or another. The only thing we don't allow, and I'm going to be open about this, and I know I'm going to criticize, but that's okay, is I don't allow gathering money for army equipment.
I encounter that, and I...
Not because
it's a hard, I mean, it's like... No war means no war, period. You know, I guess probably the same thing for you. It's no war from both sides, you know.
You have to draw the line somewhere all the time.
It's very, very hard. I feel so bad for the people. It's so hard.
It's horrible. It's horrible on many, many levels. And I think I went from being absolutely devastated the first month to month and a half. Devastated.
Are you Ukrainian?
So I was born in Lvov. I'm Jewish by nationality, partially. And I was raised in Israel. I never felt like a Ukrainian. We feel in Israel like we are all Russian speaking are Russians in Israel, right? There's no, maybe Kafkazi is a little different, but other than that, everybody's a Russian. I came here, I was mostly in the Russian speaking community, but I also have a lot of Ukrainian friends. So I can't say that I identify with being a Ukrainian, but I definitely have a perspective. Whereas my husband, he's completely Russian. And
what's his stand?
He thinks that Putin lost his mind. He believes that this was something that the Russian population and the Russian people that are around him and in his generation absolutely do not need. His heart breaks for all the soldiers lost. He comes from a man's man environment. So a lot of his father's friends, his father either served in the army, his business partner that, God rest his soul, was a person from Lugansk who was a commander in the army, and he's devastated. He's very, very unhappy with what's going on there. Very unhappy. He doesn't believe there was one single reason that it should have happened and that we should have lost that many soldiers and people on both ends.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's still like a movie.
Yeah.
I still can't believe we're fighting
with Ukraine.
I'm still in shock. Like, how could that ever happen? Like, we're so close. Like, our languages and even Ukrainian language. I mean, I'm Russian, but I understand it 100%. I can't speak it. a couple of words here and there, but I mean, I understand. I can hold a conversation, no problem. It is such a close country to us, and to see where it's going now is just, incredible.
A lot of people looked at this border only as a political border. People did not feel they were different because they lived on the other side of the border. Some people did, and self-identifying is important for every nation. But at the same time, when I came out at the beginning of the war and I said that this is for me a civil war because it's brother going against the brother, that still did not change in my mind. We're still brothers fighting each other. But a lot of people were aggressive against that. They didn't like me calling each other brothers. And that, I think, breaks my heart the most. Breaks my heart. Because what happens is that you and I remember that nobody cared if you're Russian-Ukrainian, you were the same, right?
Yeah.
But our kids, if this is going to go on, are going to make a big difference between Russian and Ukrainians. And then history shows us that a third generation already looks at Russian and Ukrainians as enemies, and I would hate for that to happen. It's going to honestly break my heart.
This is what I always talk about with my friends is that kids growing up, especially like in kindergarten. I heard in Miami actually a story that the kid was beat up by other kids because he was Russian.
Yeah, we hear that too.
It's a really, really, really hard topic, but I think that the government need to invest into programs that educate the newcomers, the refugees, of how to adapt to Canadian standards, and that we are here trying to keep it all cool and not to cause to escalate anything. As you can see from the beginning of the war, nobody really came out. No Russian community really came out with flags and screaming and yelling. I mean, you get here and there people post,
They're
right?
afraid.
I don't think they're afraid. I mean, it's a huge community, a huge Russian community here. I just think they understand. The majority, they understand the situation is just fucked up.
The majority. We have fanatical groups here in Toronto, and I'm glad.
They didn't walk out. Nobody did anything. I know that none of them came out.
Well, they canceled May 9th walks because of the fear of escalation. I think that they didn't get their.
I don't think they don't need a license for that. They can do. I mean,
they need a license.
These days, they can come out and do anything they want to. Who's going to stop them? I think that is more of an understanding. I think it's.
I'm not sure that the organizers of these groups are all understanding. I know.
I spoke to a few, and they understand the situation, and they understand that they also live in Canada. They need to kind of cool it off a little bit this time. Maybe later on they will. I mean, I don't know, but I think it's pretty cool that they didn't. Like my opinion, because it would have got things to the next level so fast. You know, good for them for not doing that.
Yeah.
This year. Aside from war, and vaccinations, your group likes to talk about men, relationships, marriages, divorce.
Man is one of the most beautiful things in life.
A what?
Man is one of the most beautiful things in life.
Just like women are the most. I'm a fan of women too, but I'm also hearing that when a woman is filing for divorce and posting about it online and talking shit about her ex-husband, and then you girls like bullets flying in from the right, left, and center, you are steering more fire in there.
Could be.
Oh yeah, and. What is that about?
Well, it's about supporting a woman going through a divorce.
What about supporting a man going through a divorce?
I think you should open a group that does that.
Men will not do that. You know what? Toronto Mommies created the environment where the men are terrified to be in the group. No? Terrified.
Well, they can't be in a group.
No, they're terrified to end up in a group. They're terrified for their. So I have a feeling.
It's an advertising. Everybody knows he's single now. Girls can start applying.
Yeah, but they still have custody issues. They still have financial problems. No. They're terrified probably to get divorced or file for divorce because they know they're going to end up on Toronto Mommy's site.
Well, I think more people get divorced than people who end up on Toronto Mommy's.
Yes.
But yes, I understand what you're coming from. I'm going to give you a hard time. I know what you're saying.
We can go around. I just don't want to be straight. I wanted to go a little bit, but...
No, I understand what you're saying. And what's the question?
The question is, why can't we, if you see the topic as a moderator, that this woman is bashing her ex-husband, she actually obviously posted his name.
No, we don't allow. But we don't allow.
Come on.
But show me, because we don't allow.
You don't want me to show stuff, because I promised to people I'm not gonna
I
names.
understand, but we don't allow. Maybe the comment was taken down 30 seconds after someone screenshot.
Maybe not an actual post, but in the comments, that's when it all comes in, right?
Well,
listen,
are you talking about?
I'm not talking about no names.
So, why are you talking about one anonymous question? Where somebody and their kids and the new girlfriend that's pregnant and the whole thing?
Well, I'm talking about all of them. There's like hundreds of them. There's not one. There's hundreds of them.
I don't know if there's hundreds. I didn't see hundreds. But dozens.
Yeah, because you wait and see if it pops, if it creates momentum, and then if it doesn't, you probably delete it, right?
That's not the idea. The idea, do you know the idea of a safe space?
Of course.
Okay.
Fair space, too.
Fair space, safe space. Sometimes these things collide. Okay? If an author comes in expressing her situation, we take her by her word. You might tell her that you don't agree with her. You might not want to comment at all. You might not want to help her. There's a lot of people saying they don't agree. For example, if I can show you posts, and quite a lot of them, when a woman says, how do I make sure my husband doesn't see the kids? Where you will have dozens, if not hundreds of women telling her, you can't do that, you're in Canada. Husband's a parent just like any other parent, right? So we have a lot of people supporting men's rights as well. You're going to have a person going through a divorce. Everybody going through a divorce are at their lowest selves. I didn't see a lot of people being as negative as they get when they get through a divorce. People are just at each other's throats. There's jealousy. There's new girlfriends, new boyfriends. You're dividing assets. You're fighting over kids. You're trying to punish each other for the breakup of the family, right? There's so much of that shit going on. And I agree with you. It's not pleasant to look at. But we're coming in, and the idea is that a woman asks a question and she's being offered advice or help. But we also have the other side of the coin. We have abused women that usually don't speak up.
Can we just, for a second, so it's not that the women ask questions. The women go there not to ask the question. I saw some posts of women go there just to piss off their husband.
You'll have to show me the post, so we'll talk about them.
Let's not get into this, because I promise I'm not going to do that. Okay,
I understand.
but it won't be fair.
What I'm
saying is that
to me.
So a woman is pissed at her husband, pissed, because they filed for divorce, and all of a sudden he has a girlfriend, and then she goes online on Toronto Mommies and just destroys him. With all
we probably don't have the same perspective, because I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not being funny or here. I want to know specifically what we're talking about, because we look at every post separately, and we look at what was, and I try to avoid that from happening.
But it always happens. It always happens in your group. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in actual posts. It could be a comments. I mean,
okay, we don't see all comments. That's true.
I mean, when you have 300, 500 comments, I mean, but it is part of the post, because people do read them. People want to see that drama and the responses. So when you start mentioning,
you think I'm calling you think that I read every single comment? I do not. I do not.
I think you read every single comment.
My dear, I run a business.
I understand, but you love what you're doing, and you love that group.
I read every single comment.
I think you read every single comment.
Don't.
Yes, and I think you put a little bit more fire to get it more interesting, which is cool. I mean, this is a part of your group. It is absolutely normal. I mean, I like these kind of things. I like these kind of dramas, but I also want to be fair, so when somebody bashes a man who can't respond in your group, that's when I want to be asked those questions. Like, that's why I asked you to come up with some questions that you would want to ask me.
Yes, I do. I want to.
So me, as a guy who represents a lot of guys in our area, who will be able to respond. But I'm not,
right now,
except anal bleaching.
Right now, No insight on that, eh?
I mean, I mean, it's
Okay,
real
so one
weird
of the
for me.
questions that I wanted to ask you, because we wanted to go more philosophically on the topic of men and women, right?
Sure,
And
yeah.
and I saw what you did with Tori, and I was listening to that interview, and I had good one, by the way, and I had my opinion. So let's diverse from the group a little bit and from me a little bit, and let's talk about hypotheticals. But I
Right.
want to know your opinion. Honestly, I do.
Sure.
So I'm a mother.
Right.
I have a son. I have only one child.
Right.
I'm raising a son. Mostly helping raise my brothers. They're still young. And my question, how do I raise a good man in today's world? As a mother.
It's a boy.
It's a boy.
Sports from young age, active sports, and a lot of it sports with discipline, because what you can teach is a little bit different than what a teacher, a man teacher can teach in a sports environment. I believe in boxing, I believe in judo, where any sports or discipline, it will help you grow that kid. You know, it'll solve a lot of problems for the future with bullying, which is a major problem right now everywhere, especially online bullying. But aside from that, I mean, physical bullying is in schools is on the rise too, right? That's why we're seeing so many shooting in the States. It all comes down from psychological issues and bullying. So I absolutely 100% for parents taking their kids to physical sports. Yeah, you have soccer, it's pretty cool, right? But it's not really contact. You know, contact sport is different. I did contact sports for many years.
What did you do?
I did boxing, I did judo. I mean, it makes you stronger, and the discipline is a good educational process.
What if you have a child that is not all kids are, not all boys are men's men, right? Not all boys are very testosterone. We have a lot of men that are, you know, excel in other things, even in music or something like that. How do you, what can I do as a mother aside from sports to instill the right values in a man, in a boy?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with your husband. It's not you. He has to play a big role in it. Mothers are always going to be softer. They're always going to try to protect their boys as much as they can. You know, I was raised by a single mother, but I think a lot of it is played by the men. That's why when the fights in terms of like divorces happen, you know, and the women try to remove their ex-husbands from their kids' life, the biggest mistake you can do is that. The biggest mistake you can do is divide. You need to do the opposite. You need to maximize the time with the kids, especially if he wants to.
Yeah,
See,
we don't have a lot of men who want to.
But I know a lot of men who do want to, and because of the divorces.
They should absolutely have full access.
Yeah, but then they go and turn to Mommies and they're being explained how to do the opposite. No. Okay. But you see, the minute the woman goes to see a lawyer, you know, for the divorce, she's being guided on how to do things the way to win. And one of the worst tools is that do whatever you can to manipulate through the kids.
So I completely, you know, there's a thing called parental alienation.
Yeah.
And you lose custody if you parentally alienate from your child from seeing a spouse. And
the rights are on the woman's side always.
Not always.
Always.
So 10 years ago, I will tell you that it's absolutely the truth. 10 years ago. 5 years ago, I'll tell you it's partially the truth. Right now, the courts are so specific about being equal that it's creating a lot of problems for women as well. And we can go into these conversations because I see a lot of stories too. So I have a question for you. We often generalize. We say, we need to do this, we need to do that, right? But not all stories fall under these advices. What do you do when the father of the children that you're divorcing is an alcoholic or a drug addict? And an addict, I'm not talking about somebody who has fun once in a while. I'm talking about an addict, someone who came to a point where they're almost dysfunctional. What do you do then?
He cannot see the children, period. that environment should not be around kids. This is the time that I would think that that's where you need to play the role of like doing whatever you can to eliminate the visitation. At that point, if it's serious mental issues, any abuse, drug-related alcoholism. But we're talking about, look, you can define the alcoholism any way you want to. If somebody has a drink,
I'm talking about dysfunction.
Absolutely,
I'm talking
that
about you
environment
leaving your kid with him, and Sunday morning he calls you and says, "Pop is out," because
no visitation. The kids should not see that. Period.
Okay, but
when they grow up, they should make their own determination whether they want to be around the parents.
Mental health is a little bit trickier, because mental health is something that happens a lot, doesn't get talked about a lot, often gets suppressed or dealt with drugs or alcohol, doesn't happen every day, but it could still be as bad. And a lot of people who have parents with mental health and who went through this, and I'm talking about me included, right? The amount of toxicity that can come out of a person that has mental health issue is, from my point of view, almost just as damaging as someone who has alcohol or drug issue. And very often they come together.
How bad was the abuse towards you? Were you abused?
Yeah.
How bad?
I don't like to, to make him a monster, because sometimes he was and sometimes he wasn't. I think when they came, I think the first couple of years so my story is this. I'm going to be open about it, and if any of my family end up watching, I have my mom's blessing to talk about it. So my mother married my father, and she was already sick with cancer. So she gave birth to me, and she had to go away to get treated. This is USSR 84, right? My father, my biological father, who was married to my mother, ended up cheating on her while she was getting her treatment. The way that he saw this is that everybody told him she's gonna die. So he was like, I don't know, perhaps self-medicating, perhaps doing what men do, compartmentalize. My mom came back and she didn't die, and she ended up with a husband who had a child from another woman. So when she was well enough to leave, because she wasn't well for a while, she left. She met the man who raised me, Fulshtinsky, and I was 2.5 years old, and he adopted me. I have a very faint recollection of all these events. I was growing up, and everybody told him, this is your father. Everybody else knew. I didn't, which still makes me angry about lies to this day. But that's why I like the truth so much, and I think everyone deserves it. But I understand why my parents did what they did. They wanted to protect me from some circumstances. The first years, my dad was a dream. He was a dream stepfather. You couldn't even ever say that he was a bad father or anything like that. He loved me. I was this princess. My mom didn't exist. She was somewhere there. And it's like, my dad is very tall, very charismatic, very emotionally expressive, and sense of humor out of this world. And then we came to Israel, and the thing with mental health is it happens whether you want it or not. So now I understand wasn't his choice, but the immigration, not achieving what he wanted to achieve fast enough, the basic poverty that happened with a lot of immigrants, it got to him, and he became episodically abusive to a point that was bad. It was physical abuse. Now back then, it was also okay to talk about physical abuse. Wasn't that bad, but just some of the ways that it happened, how far he would have gone, and the things that came with it, to me, were pretty bad. But the worst part wasn't even the physical abuse, because my mom could beat me as well, right? It wasn't just him. Is the emotional unavailability, the emotional abuse, the wanting to punish me because my mom wouldn't do what he wanted her to do. And then one day I just stopped existing for him. And I think that's what it was something happened in his life that made him feel like a failure. And then he spent 3-4 months really being on my case every single day. And I think that for me, these 3-4 months are a lot more psychologically scarring, because he wouldn't let me out of my room. I would have to beg to go to the washroom, all kinds of things. Wow. And I was 8 or 9. Wow. Yeah.
Do you believe a lot of your character built on the whole situation with
He believes that. So we had a conversation before his stroke, 2 days before that, 3 days before that. He married the third time. And he always wanted the new wives not to get to know me because I have a big mouth. And he would tell them a story about him being so perfect and being abused by my mother, and only what I wanted is only to be loved. Was the story he was telling them. But I did tell her that, and she confronted him about that. And I did not tell her that. But anyways, we had a conversation. And I remember shaking so hard I couldn't finish the conversation. And I was, I already had my son. I was shaking. I literally couldn't talk. And I'm thinking, okay, it's so many years. I'm already successful, more or less. I still couldn't talk because my body was going into this state of shock. And he was trying to tell me he never touched me with a finger, because that was just what he wanted to push. He's a very manipulative, very, very smart man. And he was trying to gaslight me. He was trying to tell me he never touched me and that it never...
But he did beat you, yeah?
Yeah, he did. And not always, which is funny to even apply that character. That he stopped. Last time he beat me, I was 11 years old. He slapped me very, very hard against my face because I wouldn't change my clothes to walk a dog. And I flew with my head against the wall. And I remember lifting my head and I looking at him and saying, listen to me. If you're going to ever touch me again, I'm going to the police and I'm telling them everything. And the thing about my dad is you could scare him. That's what I found out when I was 11, right? Before that, he was like the strongest man I've ever met. So my dad, in that conversation that we had, and I confronted him, and he couldn't really hide from the facts because I tend to remember things very well. He told me, well, that's why you're successful now, because I taught you how to be strong from an early age. So it was about him again, right? It wasn't about my pain. It was about him being... And I said, well, a weak man can't teach a person to be strong, right? He didn't like to hear that. But in that conversation, I tried to be peaceful. I tried to be healing. I wanted to have a healing conversation. I have a child. I don't want these things to be passed the generation. I want, a beautiful ending to this. But we got into the details. And last thing I said, why weren't you there for me? Is when situation got tough and I was in difficult situation, says, well, I always knew where you are. I said, well, one day you're going to be in a hospital and people are going to ask me why I'm not there for you. And I'm going to tell them, well, I know where he is. 2 days after he gets a stroke and he's an invalid now, he can't speak and can barely walk.
Do you visit him?
I used to for a couple of years, but after his stroke, he lost what I liked about him. The sense of humor, although it's still there, the charisma, the wittiness, but certain things about his character are still there, and he became increasingly toxic and very manipulative. He's a genius when it comes to manipulation. A person can barely speak, but he can still turn everyone around his finger. So now I just say, hey, I know where he is. And he personally himself said that I'm no longer his daughter and that I'm dead to him. So is that part of what makes me who I am? Absolutely. I think the confrontational part, where instead of saying, a lot of women, and not only women, but I'm going to talk about women now because that's what I know, that go through abuse, especially in our community, but in all communities, they never talk about it. There is a shame that's attached to that. You're ashamed you're not from a perfect family. You're ashamed your dad was an alcoholic or that he abused your mother. You're supposed to feel shame. And I think it's ruining us from the outside. We shouldn't be ashamed of the circumstances that we came from. We should be ashamed for not doing anything about it. And for not being better people ourselves. Although I understand it's very hard when you come from that environment. So I personally think that, yes, my thing where my mom was always lying about what was going on and trying to portray like her family is perfect, I don't do that. I don't play in the perfection game. I'm not saying I'm perfect or that my marriage is perfect or anything is perfect. That head on, when I tell a bully, bring it on. Doesn't matter who he is, especially if it's a man. That's fed by that partially. I have less anger now, so I'm less confrontational now, but that still is part of me.
You know, listening to this, I'm a little bit shocked, but at the same time, I kind of get the general understanding of you and where you're coming from. If you went through this abuse, right, and obviously it's painful, still painful, right?
Yes, yes.
You know, when you see other women get bullied on your platform, why not come to full defense? Like full-scale defense. It doesn't matter right or wrong. Anybody can make a mistake. Just why not come to full defense? There's other topics that we can. There's other topics. One sec. So there's other topics that you can create so much drama about it, and that's like vaccine and Johnny Depp story. But if it's directly to a certain person who's a woman who made a mistake in the business, who made a mistake anywhere, why just not come to protection instead of like beating that little girl with not having anybody to defend? Why not feel this? Why not feeling for that person who the whole group is kind of going after? You understand what I'm saying?
I often do.
All the time.
I don't think that I come from a place where I do things mindlessly, meaning all the time because the situation looks like it. I try to find out what the situation is. But every day, day in and day out, people try to, like, women are very aggressive.
Some.
Not
all.
I'm not saying, but like generally women are aggressive.
If they gather at the right spot.
Yeah, towards other women. And Russian-speaking women see each other often as competitors. Women are taught to see each other as competitors.
Fine.
It's for the attention of men usually. I prefer them to see each other as competitors for business, but that's different.
Okay.
I want more camaraderie between women. I want more women to feel like they can support each other. There's a saying that queens fix each other crowns. I like that. Will I always fix somebody's crown? No, but most of the time I try.
But because of the situation that you had growing up, I mean, it should be all the time. I was an abusive also family growing up. My stepfather was just an asshole. And there's no way I would let anybody feel the way I felt when I was young, under no circumstances. And I like to defend myself when I know I'm 100% right, which I did a couple of times from your group. You know, I mean, I actually do not care what anybody says about me, what they write. But if I see that I can make a difference, you know, in my post and to see the better side of it, I'm going to write something. But if there's no point, there's no point. I'm not gonna go down to putting somebody down, you know. Well, so because of that feeling of abuse, I'm against abuse against women and children. Like and that was my problem with. That's like I said. I really like your group. Really, I think it's a cool idea, and I think it has a crazy potential if it gets cleaned up a little bit with a little bit less of drama. I know it's good. Drama is always good because it brings in attention, but with the right drama. I'm against bullying, period.
One of the things that I would wish, as we have this conversation, because we keep circling back to your perception, right?
Because I'm a guy, that's what I see from the side.
Absolutely, but you're also just not a person who's in the group. It's not only gender specific, you're also a business person, you're also a media person, and you're not in the group. And the news that you get are certain news. Sometimes you get screenshots, sometimes you don't. So what I would wish, and I don't know if it's doable, but in general, is just that you would walk in my shoes for a week or two and see the amount of work that gets done to clean up the group, to see the amount of, because a lot of people left the group because they call it too sterile, because they say we don't allow a lot of things, right? And sometimes our group gets mixed up with other Mommies groups. It happens all the time. Right, because there's this little wannabe groups that took everything that we have, but they're smaller and they're less active, but they allow things that we won't allow, and people.
And they don't allow things that you do allow.
Well, sometimes they don't. Yeah. Sometimes they don't. But I would want you to walk in my shoes a little bit and to see things from where I stand and the amount of work every day that goes unpaid that gets put into this not being a place of bullying.
Look, like I said, I mean, I think it's a great group. Don't get me wrong. I'm playing both sides,
And
so
I understand. I
because
respect
it's the right thing to do, to be fair, right? Are you profiting from the group?
I profit from advertising. That probably will, I could make better money elsewhere. But I'm also profiting from people coming to me and hiring me as their real estate agent. So I'm good. I don't have a problem with the financial side of things.
Good. You had some other question for me.
I did.
I know that one's circulating because I feel a big one coming.
No, I'm trying to remember where I wanted to go because I think I replayed this in my mind so many times in the last day or two of where I wanted to go. Because I like your attitude and I like the way you do things, and I also understand your perspective from where you're coming from. If a buddy of yours comes to you, and starts, talking shit about his spouse or his girlfriend or somebody he was close to, right? Not a one-night stand. And do you ever tell him, calm down, man? I mean, do you ever tell him he's wrong?
Absolutely, all the time. I said it live when we were touring. We had I think that, I mean, obviously you got to let them, if it's your friend, you got to let them get the steam out. It's okay. But then you have to say, look, you were telling her you love her for the last 10 years, and now you're bashing her. She's the mother of your children. No matter what, you're going to be with her forever. So you got to cool off your emotion and just watch your language. That's pretty much it. Especially if I know her. Listen, it happens all the time. Divorces, they hate each other, then they love each other again. I met people here who got divorced and got remarried. You know, but they were talking so much shit about one another. They would come here to a club and would talk shit about one another, and then I'm seeing on Facebook they're getting married. I'm like, after all that shit that they talked about, both of them, they're getting remarried. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but me, no, I'm against any of that abuse, especially verbal.
Oh, physical, you're okay.
Physical, I'm okay. No, not towards women. When guys fight, it's okay. It's normal. Friends always fight. But not against women, no. Zero tolerance towards abuse towards women. Emotionally, physically, and also same thing towards children. Has to be harsher sentence for both of them. Proven.
It's hard. It's hard to prove.
Proven by law, not by Toronto Mommies.
Yeah.
Proven by law.
It's hard to prove. In general, it's a hard thing to prove.
I think if once the police gets involved, it's easier to prove. I mean, there's signs. Not everybody's on phones. Everybody's like this. Oh, look what you did to me. Unless you get one of those Johnny Depp's ex-wife, which was proven.
Thank God my husband is not on the phone all the time.
I think everybody's on the phones, but. You won't be able to stop it, but you always have to try to be good.
So about this thing when people bash each other and then they end up remarrying, same thing happens with girlfriends, right? So you have these women that are at each other's throat, like big time, right? They're hitting each other. They're bringing out everybody into the mix for like years. It's like a camp against a camp situation. And then like all of a sudden you see pictures of them on Facebook being like, I love you, you're the best friend forever. So when emotions get involved, people hurt, people get aggressive. And we have to take a step back and remember that what you're getting is not, take it with a grain of salt.
You know what I heard? I'm not sure if it's true. I'm gonna be honest, not true. But that's what I heard. I heard that there were topics in your group about cheating and women fighting their ex-husbands. Their husbands with other girls, even in my club, and then posting pictures of her and calling her bad names. Is that true?
I've never seen it, but there's so many posts about cheating that I could have missed something in the comments. I don't.
Is that one of the most explosive comments posts? Is a cheating post?
It's on the top. It's on the top 10 topics, but it's not one of the most explosive. No, because see, cheating, there's nothing new under the sun. People are gonna cheat. Women cheat as well, right?
But when they post a picture on a group like Toronto Mommies, this guy is not getting laid ever again.
I think he's getting
His
laid.
career is done,
I think he's getting
and hers
laid.
too.
There's always these women that go like, oh my god, he's a superstar, gotta get some of that.
Well, yeah.
Women like a challenge. Some
Wha-
women are less frightened than others. So I had a question for you because I listened to your interview with Tori, right? And
No, I had more interviews, not just
I
with
know,
Tori.
I know, but that was
not
like the
that. That was
women's
not that boring.
interview.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was not boring. It was the only one I listened from A to Z. And I listened to everything, I promise. Now, you said something to Tori. She said that she wants a strong man.
Yeah.
And you said that, well, you don't want a strong man. You're just saying that you want a strong man. And women are just saying. So I wanted to start that conversation because why do you think women are saying that they want strong men, but they don't want strong men? What was your opinion on that?
Because it's hard to handle a strong man.
Yes.
You know, and a woman wants a strong man because she wants to feel like there's somebody protecting her. But at the end of the day, if the woman is business oriented, she's educated, you know, has a good job, making good money, I mean, it's always going to be a competition at home. So eventually, they're going to eat each other. So having a strong man is not the way we think a strong man. A strong man is just strong-minded, somebody who is there to listen, who is not going to argue, who is going to be a friend. The definition of a strong man is that I say it, and that's how it goes in their mind.
But it's not a strong man. That's a domineering man.
Well, with Tori it was a little bit different. That's what she wanted.
Yes.
You know, she wanted somebody who was going to be like, "Hey, I'm the shit. Chill out." But she is a very, very strong woman. You know, she's popular. She knows what she wants. She goal getter, and for her to be with somebody who is going to be holding her like this, that's not going to happen.
I like the concept of a power couple. I was strong and opinionated. I think I was more opinionated back then than I am now. When I was young, and I was going on all these dates, and I had all these guys sit in front of me, and even women tell me, "Oh, you know, you're gonna end up with a pussy whip," and
Did you?
no,
I gotta give you. I don't know him. I have never seen
he
him.
likes it that way.
You know what? I gotta give him props. I don't know how he deals with you and all this shit that happens around you in your group, but probably nerves of a steel.
Oh, he's insane.
Does he
Nerves
tell you
of steel.
sometimes, "Hey, chill out, lady"?
Yeah, all the time.
Like,
So
hello.
my husband does not take an ounce of shit from me. An ounce of shit. Right? I ended up marrying a person that can absolutely challenge me on certain things head on. First times that we would have fights, my mother would seriously think that we're getting a divorce because she's like, you can't walk back from a fight like that. And then 15 minutes after, he's like, hon, which restaurants are we going to? That's his attitudes. He was raised by strong women, and he's not a pussy whip. He's very opinionated. So, you know, our first fight was they kicked him out of bed because of politics. I literally kicked him out of bed with my legs because of politics.
What do you say?
He didn't like Hillary.
Who likes Hillary?
I do. Not as a
How
personality.
do you like Hillary? Come on.
I do.
You like Biden?
And I don't think there's much to like. He's not giving us much in terms of personality. But, and then, you know, when Trump was elected, there was a thing in our family. But politics is always a thing in our family.
I mean, he's right. I mean, nothing to like about that lady. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a woman in power. Absolutely nothing. Just not Hillary.
Well, that's your perspective, right? I personally thought that Hillary would be a very good thing.
I disagree. I think, like I said, I think a woman president or prime minister is great. I actually do think that in the near future, hopefully, we are going to have a prime minister who is a woman. I absolutely believe that it's going to be, hopefully, Melissa Landsman. You met Melissa. You know Melissa.
No, I haven't.
Well, you probably should take a look at her. I think she has a potential to be the next prime minister because she has all the dots, the connecting dots, you know. She's strong, she is powerful, she speaks well, LGBT community, is
In love
on
with
her side. We love her. She's Jewish. She's Ukrainian. I mean, she is just perfect, and she loved this country. So I believe that she has the potential to be a future prime minister. But Hillary needs to stay away from politics.
Well, see, that's
Just like her husband.
That's your point of view, right? I come from a different point of view and from a different perspective. So, and I'm very passionate about human rights. My husband studied law as well, and specifically human rights. So we get very combative about that as well. A friend of mine, she's a lawyer, and she told me one thing once, that her friend, a very prominent divorce lawyer, Canadian, told her once, when you get married, make sure you're the crazy one. When I got married, I didn't make sure I'm the crazy one. I got married with someone who challenges me a lot. So there's a lot of things he challenges me on. Some of these arguments, they go on year after year, year after year. But he made me much stronger. He is the reason why I think he completed the evolution of me. What he gave me, I don't think anybody else would be able to give me. So I think sometimes relationships where two people are opinionated, we perceive relationships as a hierarchy. Someone has to be the boss and someone has to comply. But I think that's taken away from what the relationship could be. Right? When you have two strong opinionated people that work towards the same goal and they find ways within themselves and wisdom within themselves to make it work, that's where the real power of a family comes out. So he doesn't like everything. When Toronto Mommies came out, he was so happy because these people are no longer in his house. Because everybody asks him what, and he's like, I don't care if she has her individual freedom. She can do whatever she wants, He's like, I don't go into women's washrooms, so I don't care what's going on there. That's women's stuff, and I respect women. And he loves strong women, which was such a surprise for me, because usually if I exploded or became too argumentative in previous relationship, I was punished for that by guys who wanted, to keep me a certain way. But he wasn't. He was like, yeah, so, he had this guts that nobody else did.
I think he deserves a premia for holding up with you. Do you get does he support some of your posts? Do you talk about this anal bleaching stuff and all that crap with him?
Yeah, but he has a sense of humor that's insane. Like some of the things my husband would say, like in general, he's like a superstar. Like his sense of humor could be out there. He's completely insane. He's crazy. In a good way. He has a lot of guts. And sometimes in a bad way, but that's
living with you is, that's already a big...
I ask him sometimes, I say, am I not too much for you? And he's like, no, it would be boring otherwise.
Yeah, you're just too much for the community, for him, not...
Community can take me. Community can take more than me.
Listen, since you surround women, what do you think about this new generation of dating apps and
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I tell my husband I ain't getting no divorces because I'm not going back to dating. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't mind the apps, but the problem is when it's only apps. You know what I mean? The problem is when a guy can't approach a girl and have a normal conversation with her. I grew up in Israel. You walk down the street, you look like this is the best thing for your self-esteem as a woman. You walk down the street, you look like a bomb just exploded on your face, and there's always a guy whistling wanting to sleep with you. And a lot of women get that, their sense of confidence from that. So I think a lot of time when men are approaching women and express an interest, that's a good thing for a woman if it's done respectfully. I don't think that making a technology control our interactions is a good thing.
I agree. I think, and even in the way I see it now, dating went absolutely upside down. Guys who have confidence, are losing it because apps are taking over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because girls, the new generation doesn't understand when the guy approaches them. They want to be approached through applications. They want to be approached through Instagram because they want to review your posts. They want to review your Instagram stories.
So, girls, I want to tell a story about reviewing posts. I met my husband online, and
Get
his
out.
profile, and his profile said there's 2 things you need to know about me. So his photo was really small, and I'm not even sure it was him. It was him. The photo profile said in Russian. I'm going to translate. It said there's 2 things you need to know about me. I always tell the truth, and I have a small crooked dick. And one of those things are true, and the other one's not. If you go on a date with me, you'll find out.
That's a good one.
Right? And if I were to make my decision about him based on that little idiotic photo or his little idiotic translation, which ended up him being, it was a bet. He went on that website to prove to his best friend that you can't meet anyone except for crazies and infomaniacs on these websites, right? And he met a few crazies and infomaniacs
And you.
and then me, right? And he ended up giving him a bottle of expensive vodka on her wedding day as a thank you that he sent him to that website. But I'm saying you can't judge a person. We're trying to be so distilled and sterile and clean now, and that we sometimes lose part of our humanity. If you love a man, his quirks, his farts, his everything is part of the things you accept and love about him. Like, I don't know about the farts, but the rest, you know what I mean? We connect less and less on the human level, and we connect more and more on, we're like swiping men like product now. You're shopping makeup online and you're shopping for a boyfriend online. You can't make a decision about a person only by his profile. There's so much more to it. There's chemistry, there's sense of humor, there is background. There's so many things we can't really feel and sense with an app. So my big wish for a lot of people will be just to go out more, even to go out on dates with people you're not going to date, just to learn about people and continue interacting.
Absolutely. But you're going to have to teach this to the kids.
Yeah.
You see, the parents are in control right now over the future of the kids. So I think that I call it reteaching the new generation on dating is very, very important.
So how do you think optimally should be done?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, when the kids grow up, you have to, talking to your kids is very important.
Of course.
I think family gathering, I think school gathering with other parents, because the kids spend majority of time with the same class for about a year, right? So gathering with the parents, I think that's actually part of the problem with the bullying, is that the parents meeting are a little bit different than the meeting that I look at, the way I think they should be. I think they should be more regular. I think there should be with a psychologist for every session. Yes, and I think that there has to be things that are being talked about in terms of like especially bullying in school, classes.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of...
One of the problems with bullying is that they're good with cleaning up the school environment, but the second that you come out of the school and you're no longer on school property, that's where the bullying happens, and school no longer gets involved. So there's this entire gap of where kids could be bullied, that the school doesn't get involved, the parents don't get involved. We need to tackle everything that has to do with our kids as a community. We can't all be completely, fully separated from each other and pretend like, and we are already very isolated.
Yes, Alisa, and you should be example of stopping bullying, 100%. But it all comes from parents too, right? So parents need to be more involved. I know they don't have time because of, with all the payments for mortgages and they have to work and they don't have time. The actual real time.
So quality
with the kids. Quality time where you can explain what bullying is. Even if you're not a bully, if you are a bully, they need to be taught. But I also, going back into sending your kids to sports, like active sports, they're being taught discipline. Like we were taught of how not to engage with other kids in case fights happen, how to properly walk away, So from a bully, you can become just, calm, good kid.
I think bullying is also a lot about awareness of the way we communicate and what we transform, and I think that's what Toronto Mommies has done well. It's just an awareness on how we communicate within the group ourselves, because there's a lot of situations which people don't understand that they're being bullish. A lot of the times people say, I'm just expressing my opinion. Where opinions are like assholes, we all have them, right? But we don't show them to everybody. And we choose the people we show it to, right? So...
You know why I'm laughing.
Yeah. Bleached assholes.
Yeah, bleached.
But
not that. Okay. I also think that a lot of bullying coming from home problems.
yes.
You know,
And the kids that are bullying other kids very often are the kids that need help the most, the bullies. We live in this black and white society in which one's the victim, the other one's the perpetrator, and yes, sometimes that comes across in Toronto Mommies as well, and your criticism is deserved. And we think this one's 100% right, this 100% wrong, but there's almost no situation in real life in which this is the case. Somebody, even a victim, stands to learn from the situation something about how to defend themselves, how to communicate their needs better, how to ask for help earlier, how to not end up in this situation.
if they were bullied,
Even victims, yeah.
I
But also
I
the
will
bullies,
gladly
they need to help.
disagree, because a lot of women get emotionally so messed up after certain
Of
comments, and they give up on their dreams just because of.
I have never met anyone who gave up on their dream because of posting Toronto Mommies.
It doesn't have to be only Toronto Mommies. It's just online bullying. Just it has does
Yes.
not. It's. It creates a panic that you give up. You don't want to do anything anymore. You know, I can so see if a woman who just started her business and made a mistake and somebody destroyed her online, want to give up, because
one
it's
thing-
trauma. It
so
is a
one
trauma. You
thing-
agree? It's
So
a trauma.
of course, one thing that I want to say, and I want it to be said in this podcast, if you ever end up being in a situation which you're bullied online because of your business,
On your platform.
doesn't matter which platform, don't. First of all, don't think it's the end of the world, because it's not. It's putting the highlight on your business, and no one post ever destroyed a business. If you have clients that are happy, no one post ever destroyed a business.
That's not what I heard.
Well, again, you
I
heard
can't do
things-
facts. We cannot do facts because I'm gonna have to go facts with your posting. So I don't want to do that, and that's why I said I'm not. But I heard
Okay,
that
but
there's a few
you're
businesses.
interviewing me, so let me finish.
Yeah, on my show. On my show.
On your show. So I understand where you're coming from, but I want to see the perspective that I see, because it's I'm talking from real life facts, right? It puts the highlight, it puts the light is shining on your business right now. There's a controversial situation. Someone's in favor of what you did, someone's against of what you did, right? People are fighting, people are disagreeing, which is a lot like real life situations. When we stop at a light, somebody's light is red, someone's green, right? They are in a conflict, but there's a way to regulate that. Come in.
By an authority, not a moderator of a group.
But again, come into that post if you're able to.
I don't have fake women accounts.
But okay, are we still talking about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because even when it was your situation,
No situation. There was
agreed-
no situation.
But you agreed to the fact of the situation. You just said, "I have a right to act as I acted."
On my personal post,
And
on my
it's
personal
your-
wall,
Yes.
not on groups. Personal
Okay.
wall.
But trust me, you got tagged, and hundreds of women went to your personal wall and saw your page.
I don't care about this stuff. It's
I
not. I
know.
wasn't looking for that kind of publicity.
So
It's
use this time as a time to show people that you are open for to criticism.
I am.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a person
Oh.
that's bullied in my group.
Well, you talk about people who can't defend themselves. Listen,
Everybody
listen,
can
listen.
defend themselves.
Once we go into that, well, look, it's a strong group. Your group is a strong group, and they know that if they even say anything, they're going to get bombarded with more comments. They get scared. I can just feel their emotions, and they just hide. They're not going to. They're not going
there's
to do
three
anything.
basic
There's only
reactions to-
I can. Look, there's people terrified of your group. Terrified.
Don't be.
Yes, and judging
Make
by that,
your friend-
and judging by that smile, you like that.
Make that.
You like that,
make
but-
Make your fear your friend.
that does not have. With men, it would be a little bit different because some men say, "What the fuck off! I don't even care." But women are weaker in the startup of their career, business career. They're allowed to make mistakes, but
Everybody's allowed to make mistakes.
What I'm trying to say is that coming from your background, is there a possibility of a change in your personality, in your group personality, where bullying will stop full, and more of an educational process will start? Maybe bringing that person who was at the end of the story, bring him in on the group, maybe on the live, and have a discussion of a situation that happened without trashing, without anything else.
I will think about that, because it's an interesting idea of having a discussion with that person, bringing both of them and having a discussion.
It just would be fair.
But for that, we need to have discussions.
And the men
too.
I'll come to your show. I mean, if you do it, if I'll
I
ask.
wanted to do a show for the longest while. My only problem is the technical part.
Well, you can figure that out. But
I didn't yet.
Well, we have guys over here. He'll help you out with whatever you guys need.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great because you don't have a man's opinion on your platform. You have only girls' opinion, but you don't have. We can say.
What are we gonna do without a man's opinion?
What you gonna do without?
Yeah, what are we gonna do without a man's opinion?
I mean, I think every woman would like to hear a man's opinion if they're talking about certain things.
We know we have.
You have your own opinion.
We have men in real life, and they give us opinions.
Yeah, but the men are probably terrified of you guys.
You know what? What happened? What happened to men that are strong and not terrified?
Online wise.
Yeah,
they just don't want to be
life.
involved. In real life, there are a lot, but they don't want to be involved in the online, especially with like Toronto Mom. They don't want to do that. Like
That's
that.
okay. That's
Everybody I speak to, I'm like, well, I don't want to do anything stupid. But I don't want to end up in Toronto Mommy's.
One of our
Facebook.
problems is that, especially our community, cares too much about what they think.
Well, it is a problem when you live in a small community because it's your image. A lot of these businesses are growing on image. Do you know how many times at the door when I would stand and we would not let somebody in, a drunk girl, and I think one of your admins from before.
Okay, that was like 7 years ago.
It doesn't matter. Who said, I'm an admin at Toronto Mommies, and if you don't let me in, a post's going to come tomorrow.
She also said that I'm going to be
move
the
away
one
from the door is locked.
But you let us in that evening.
That was not me. It was my manager who let you in. I went to the kitchen
and
to do
by the washroom. and
that was me.
And I wanted to apologize because I gave her shit for that, and I said never do that. That's not the message that we want to convey. But I also don't control how my name is used, how my group's name is used. They cannot. You control it.
This is part of you, Alisa. You like that. It's just part of you, and it's okay. You know, it is.
You get to define what's a part of me?
Because I can see that as I'm allowed to have express my opinion.
So
there's nothing bad.
There's
nothing bad in it. I think Toronto Mom is a big part of you. Like I said, I think a part that wants to help, and the other part who sometimes like to stir up shit.
Oh, like real life.
And yeah, like real life, and that's what makes the group attractive.
So I have a question for you, because as we talked about asking you questions. So here's Toronto Mommies.
Yes.
A group that, in addition to all its controversy,
yes,
most of the time helps.
95% of the time, yeah.
Okay, 95% of the time helps.
Absolutely.
Day in and day out.
Absolutely.
How can men participate in offering more help? Are you willing to organize men? Are you willing to organize men-run businesses that are gonna be in contact with us from time to time and are gonna say, "Hey, I want to help. My business wants to help. How can I help?" And I'm not talking about money.
I think there's a lot of businesses would love to do. You just maybe have to listen. I don't need to help you organize that because I'm not going to be a part of Toronto Mommies.
No, nobody asked you to be a part.
Okay. Or of that. As much as I say I like it, but I think to open up maybe a day, a week, where men can come in and
then we have to delete everyone for the rest of the time?
If there's no bullying, why not? Why leave it? Leave it once a week. If there's no bullying...
Can you imagine how much work it's going to entail if hundreds of men are going to come in and then I'll have to delete
No, you're asking if you want... just for help. I mean, you open up a help page. Like just one day, let's say on a Thursday, men can come in and advertise their businesses for women.
How is that helping women, except for helping men getting free advertising?
Well, that's helping men.
Yeah, I'm
And
talking
women.
about how can men help women.
How can
Men-led businesses. How can you help our causes? I'm not talking only about money.
well, maybe it shouldn't be business. Maybe I'm a little bit incorrect. Maybe it shouldn't be business. Maybe just a day to express their opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like once a week, or maybe make a special
So
event once a
all
month.
men, can I talk to the camera?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, if you have opinions about the screenshots that you see in Toronto Mommies, please contact me personally or info@torontomommies.net. Send your email, and I will gladly, anonymously or not anonymously, post your opinion in any post that you would like me to post at.
Damn, I like this. I like it. Good for you. Thank you. I think it will mean a lot to guys to be able to kind of like, say, okay, you stated your opinion on that thing, and I'm going to say mine. So I'm glad that we
None of what Toronto Mommies does in any way is a reflection on men. We do it for us. We don't do it for men. It's like a place for us to be without men, because men are such
talking
a big part.
about men, divorces.
But that's part of us.
What?
That's part of our experience. We don't get a lot of places where we can be men-free without influences of our partners, our fathers, our brothers, our bosses.
And shitty exes.
Well, they exist whether they're men or women.
Listen, these are normal topics. Like I said, these are normal topics, and I think it's cool that you guys are bringing it up. As long as there's boundaries, as long as there's
We
there's
try
some
to have
sort of
boundaries.
some sort of censorship. As long as there's not too much fire being thrown.
I have a last question. When
Yes.
you and I spoke before we did this interview, we touched on how do we regulate conflicts in personal relationships. So we talked about people being, couples on the verge of divorce, and you said that you believe in couples therapy.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I wanted to touch it because I think it's going to help a lot of people to look at it differently. So what is your perspective on couples therapy, especially when people are about to get a divorce?
Couples are usually afraid to seek a therapist because a lot of them think that they don't need it. A lot of them think that I'm not crazy.
We're all crazy.
Yeah. But that should be, you gave so much energy to that relationship. There is 1% that somebody can help, and that's a professional. When you have medical problems, physical problem, you go see a doctor, right? When you're a mechanic, when you have a problem with your vehicle, you go see a mechanic. Same thing here. When you have problems in marriage, you see a professional who can see things from the side. And there are like that. There are really, really good professionals out there who can help, like marriage counselors who can help to kind of have that last step. Like if it doesn't work after that.
So I agree with you, because a lot of times we go to marriage counselors too late, right? After there's already so much animosity and bad feelings. A lot of times why things break up is because of different styles of romantic relationships and trouble and problems in communication. Guys don't like to talk about things until it's too late. Very often women assume and come up with stuff in their heads that things are much worse than they actually are. People have different expectations. And also what I noticed in our community, there's not a lot of marriage counselors who speak Russian. So it's a problem that we have all the time. We have these super extra expensive strings,
Right.
that and they're bound by too many laws and too many governing bodies, which it's very good that they exist, but it stops a lot of people that could have perhaps be good mediators of conflict to work as a marriage counselor. So if one thing I hope that will happen after us bringing up this topic is that we're going to have more people stepping up and say, hey, maybe it's an ex-teacher that knows how to work with conflicts, even a bouncer, someone who can be that third person that helps people listen to each other better.
Not teachers are not, because they all have their own problems.
Yes.
Not teachers are not balanced.
But shrinks have their own problems too.
But they know how to kind of put it aside. But look, I want to give my advice. So there's a lot of doctors out there, specialists, who are doing a lot of Zoom now.
Yes.
There's a lot of them in Ukraine, in Russia.
Yeah.
Worldwide. I think there's an application that you can see, and it's cheap. cheap that you can see a counselor. But I just want to say this, that not guys and not girls should be afraid of seeking attention from doctors who are professionals in
But
marriages.
counselors, marriage counselors are usually not doctors.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's important to understand, because you don't have to go through even admitting to yourself, oh my God, there's a problem, I need therapy. It's not about that. You're using another person with an expertise to make sure that you and your partner hear each other better.
Yes.
Because me and my husband went through counseling, and the only thing that counseling did is make sure that I hear what he's saying and he hears what I'm saying. Because very often we use words in the same language, but we don't understand each other properly.
But that's exactly why the relationship always goes sour, is because people are not communicating. Like I said in interviews, since you watched Victoria, that when it comes to relationship, you are friends. You are best friends first. And
Not
then,
everyone will agree with you, but
know,
I agree with you.
Sorry?
Not everyone will agree with you, but I will agree with you.
This is my personal opinion. And when you start dating, you are listening to each other because you're interested to know one each other. And as you go further together, that goes kind of like backwards, and you stop listening to each other. So that's why it's important to have counseling, like you said, is that they stop you, and then you speak, and now you speak. Do you understand? Yeah? Go home.
Last question again.
Yes.
Do you think a marriage can survive cheating?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's you always, one of the parties is always going to have no, you can't.
There are marriages who survive cheating.
There are, but you see, you open up the door for the other person to cheat, and you're always going to have that in your mind. So if you catch her,
she can always tell you it's because you did it.
Yeah, it's a ticking bomb. You know what I mean? And there's nothing you can say. I mean, it's bound to happen. So no.
Even we see so many open relationships these days.
Well, if it's agreeable, open relationship, of course, yeah, which I also think is a little bit weird. Like, swinging is huge now. For me, it's a little weird. If somebody's going to touch my girlfriend, my wife, but me, it's a little weird. You know, I don't know.
Toronto Mommies,
even though I'm very open about
because we have this group 18 plus, right?
I don't even want to go there.
Yeah. But there was such a big movement before COVID for several years, and I found out so many people live in alternative lifestyles, and so many conversations around that starting to happen. And I was wondering, what was your opinion? Some people say it makes relationships stronger. Some people say it's a sign that something is wrong.
If they both want to try it and agreed on it, and they did it slowly, without rushing, because I believe that into like swinging and into all this open relationship, you got to go very, very, very slow.
To make sure everyone's comfortable?
Yeah, so you get everybody comfortable, so you just don't want to rush. So you want to be able to have that gap to say, I don't know, I'll take some time off. If you both agree on it, whatever, everybody can do whatever they want to. But if one partner doesn't and one does, and he's trying to constantly push, that can go into major problem. Everything is changing. The whole world is upside down. I can't even tell you what's right and what's wrong now. From things that I think I'm right, somebody can prove me wrong, you know? But one thing that I know is that for me, personally, I think that they need to, if somebody wants to go another way, there's a problem in the relationship. There's no other reason why somebody wants to go bang another chick if he's married, unless there's a problem with sex or there's some problem. That's the way I see it. But like I said,
do you think men and women cheat from the same reasons?
Absolutely not. I think men cheat because we're all dumb and we just want to fucking, we just want to get drunk and just do stupid things. Men are more emotionally. Men are more because they're missing something, and it's most of the time it's our fault.
So women are because they're missing something, and men because they're dumb and they wanna.
Men are men, you know.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys, but women is most of the time is because of things are not going well, at home, and it's most of the time our fault, the men's fault, is that we're forgetting to keep our women happy, to do simple things, like getting flowers, sending a message, I love you, simple things we forget. And that's what women are looking for. And if they don't see this in their relationship, it's a human being. I mean, it's nature, right? We want we want to feel loved, and men are men, Alisa, thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast. This was great. I'm glad that we, had a great conversation and we came to sort of final little, topics that we both agreed on. And I wish you lots of luck. And my personal something to you, spread the positivity as much as you can. And you are capable of creating an educational program on your platform to make women greater, stronger, and stronger community as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Yo, G-Man from the G Show. Let's talk about life and what we know. You wanna have a seat with the top dog? Be ready to get down with the real talk. All jokes aside, welcome to the G-Man Show.